Halden Sawa Lama Rinpoche Daki Chi Warpe Din Chukla Kadran Chenpo Goneg Yusente Kusum Tuki Nodrup Saldu Sol. Well, I want to start out with a quote from Yawang Karmapa. We could say that it is equally important in the long run for our own good and the good of others that we are initially kind to ourselves. And so this is what I am going to be talking about today, how we can be kind to ourselves and as a result be kinder to others and basically navigate the world in a way where we can have the most positive influence on other people. I thought it might be good to start with looking inward. And so first of all, just contemplate for a short while what you consider things that you have done that you feel good about, that the result of your actions was quite good, quite positive, that you made a difference in either your own life or other people's. Okay, now think about your mistakes. Contemplate the mistakes, the things that you regret having done, the things you wish you could have done better, differently. Okay, I would ring the singing bowl if Zoom wouldn't block it out. So I'm just wondering, you can, if you like, nod your head or thumbs up or a thumbs down, but the question is, which seemed to be a heavier list or a longer list in your minds? Was it the good things or was it the negative things? And I'm not seeing anyone saying much of anything or nodding, indicating anything, but I suspect that A lot of you had a long list of things that you regret. And that's why I am going to do this program today. That we take the negative things to be so serious, and we kind of define ourselves on the basis of that, and forget about our Buddha nature, forget about our good qualities and our possibilities, and so forth. That we miss a lot when we just focus in on being very hard on ourselves. So now, to begin the talk, I like to begin a talk like this, or a program like this, with going over the Four Noble Truths, which traditionally is described as being like a doctor talking to a patient. And the first truth is, of course, that you suffer, which is a doctor telling you that you're sick. And the second truth is, well, there's a cause of your suffering. There's a disease, which is what a doctor would say, that, you are sick and this is what the cause of your sickness is. And the third is the truth of cessation, which is that, well, it's curable. And the fourth is the path, which is, well, this is the regimen that you need to take to cure this disease. Now, in modern society, there is a branch of medicine called psychiatry that wasn't available to the Buddha. But quite honestly, I think the Buddha would really turned, you might say, spirituality into, or religion into almost like a science of mind. And I like to use the example of a psychiatrist talking to a patient, because the Buddha wasn't talking so much about physical things. He was talking about our psychology, our mind. And so again, it would be the psychiatrist saying, well, yeah, you're suffering. And the cause of it is that you're neurotic. And I looked up the definition of neurosis, and it was being mildly out of touch with reality. In fact, Trungpa Rinpoche would tell his students, you're neurotic, and that meditation is working with your neurosis. So that goes ahead to the third one, which is that, yes, you've got some you're slightly out of line with reality, but it's curable. And four, that the Buddhist path leads to clarifying all of this that is causing us to be out of touch with reality. So some of the things that I'm going to touch on today with that introduction are blame. That when you look at the way things are today and how people react, that it seems that when a problem arises, we either blame ourselves, and that's what I was talking about earlier. When you start looking at your faults, you blame yourself. Oh, the reason why all of these problems are happening to me is that there's something fundamentally wrong with myself. And it's so wrong that there really isn't much that I can do about it. And it leaves you feeling hopeless and helpless and powerless. The other is, which is very, very popular today, is I'm a victim. Other people are causing all of my pain and suffering. And if I can just do something about other people, then my life would be just dandy. And the interesting thing about that is that approach means that you don't have anything to do with your own suffering. So um, what do? You don't have to do anything. Well, I guess you could go around and try to change the mind of everybody else in the world that's causing you to suffer. But I don't think that's going to happen. I used to be a prison chaplain, and uh, I would hear this a lot, that they felt that they were not responsible for being incarcerated. They had all kinds of reasons why they were a victim, which might seem bizarre, but it would be everything from, well, what I did wouldn't have been a crime in the state that I came from, or I was just hanging out with the wrong people. I had the wrong lawyer, had the wrong judge, was the wrong ethnic group, wrong color, wrong place at the right time, yada, yada, yada. And I would say, well, when you get out, you can try to change the world, and then maybe change the laws, and yada, maybe it'll be all right then. One inmate even said this, that he was sexually assaulted as a child, and there was nothing he could do about it. And that's why he was the way he was. Well, he's 30 years old, and he'll never be assaulted sexually as a child again. It's impossible. And what he is really working with is his reactions, his emotional reactions to memories of what happened 20 years ago. So all of this is important, that I can go into blame in more detail. But either way, when you're blaming yourself or you're blaming other people, that it leaves you in a place where you don't have much power. When what we want to be able to do is have the ability to look at these situations and in the present do things that leaves us empowered. And the next point that I want to talk about, I'm just going over these briefly here, is forgiveness. That forgiveness is letting go. And there's lots of different ways to do this. That we can do purification practices to remove things that we have done that we regret, that have been wrong, and so forth. I have done programs where I look at forgiveness as, first of all, forgiving yourself. Just like we can find it very hard to love ourselves, we can find it very hard to forgive ourselves. It can be much easier to forgive other people than it is to forgive ourselves. The next point that I'm going to go over is mindfulness, that it's really important to pay attention to what's going on in our own mind. It's good to pay attention to what's going on externally, but it's really important to pay attention to what's going on internally. it's easy to uh, really not know ourselves very well at all. That we have, those of you that have meditated have probably noticed that we have this internal dialogue. We have this subconscious gossip that is going on constantly. And it's easy to just kind of let it go on and on and on and on, but never really pay much attention to it. But in the meanwhile, it is giving you all kinds of messages that aren't very helpful at all. So much of what I'm going to say comes from my own personal experience and my experience working as a lama and working as a prison chaplain, that there's a lot of overlap here. And so to, one example that I like to use in terms of the way that we relate to ourselves is an example of a mother. A mother is considered to be the closest thing, the love that a mother has for her young child. And not all mothers are this way, but when it is this way, this is the closest thing there is to the love that a bodhisattva has for all beings. In the description of Chenrezig, it is that he looks at all beings like a loving mother looks at her child. And I'll preface this by saying that this is not the mother that I grew up with, my actual mother. I found out after she had died, at the age of 96, by the way, that she had been sexually assaulted repeatedly as a little girl. And she had all kinds of issues that were never really dealt with. And I came to realize that she was actually mentally ill. So the mother that behaves with love, pure love, love that is unconditional, would behave towards a young child this way. The child is learning to crawl, maybe even learning to walk. And if you've ever had a young child, you know that they, first of all, can fall over very quickly, maybe hurt themselves. And a kind mother would pay attention to what the child is doing, but let the child crawl, let the child learn to maybe even pick themselves up on a chair and stand up, and then fall over. And when the child cries, might wait for a second to see how intense the crying is. And if it's intense, go over there, pick up the child, make it feel protected, kiss the owie. And then when the child settles down, let the child go back and explore his or her world. That's the way children learn. You also are going to want to take off just about everything from tabletops that could possibly be pulled off, and protect the child from getting into dangerous situations. But it is let the child explore, let the child learn, let the child feel protected. And whereas you might say the opposite is uh, where the child is crawling, it's going to maybe climb, pull itself up on a chair, and the mother starts saying, you know, you're always screwing up. You're always doing things wrong. Why are you even trying that? You're going to hurt yourself. And then when the child falls over and hurts itself, the mother comes over and whacks it. I told you so, you're an idiot. And this might sound pretty brutal, but when I came to Buddhism, I realized that that was the kind of mother I had inside of me telling myself. And whenever I made a mistake, it was always using language that if a friend of mine had used language like that I would never be friends with them again. But you can't get away from yourself. Maybe you can use drugs and alcohol and other things to get away from that inner voice. But we need to make friends with that inner voice. And we need to learn how to be kinder to ourselves. So that's why I bring this example up, is that if you really start paying attention to the way you look at yourself, that we have to have unconditional love for ourselves. This doesn't mean that we gloss over our errors and our mistakes and so forth, but we can acknowledge them and then make the aspiration to learn and to do better. If you have the attitude that, well, that's just the way that I am, that I'm to blame, there's something wrong with me, you will never change because you've already given up your power to change. And it can feel a bit like when you are doing a purification practice, like let's say Vajrasattva, that you're trying to turn a lump of coal white. But fundamentally, you know that you're a lump of coal, that there's nothing there that really is possible to purify. And when you are looking at yourself as a victim, it's like, well, samsara is supposed to be perfect. Maybe that somehow or another, if we just use the right science or whatever, that samsara would be perfect. There would be no problems. There would be no traffic jams. We'd have full employment. Everybody would get paid what they deserve to be paid for. Your car would never run out of gas or electricity, and there would be no pollution, and people would get along and love everybody if samsara were perfect. And then if that was the case, then I wouldn't have any problems from being a victim. And I think that's pretty bizarre. But a lot of times when we feel like we are the victim, it is, well, this is the way samsara is, at least in the mundane world. But all of this is workable, and that's why I'm doing this program today, is to help us learn how to be kinder to ourselves, have more realistic expectations of the world and of ourselves. That, of course, we all want to love ourselves and have compassion for ourselves, but frequently we just plain don't know how to do it. That we think that if we have compassion and love for other beings, if we help other beings, that somehow or another that will prove that we are a worthy person ourselves. But Tralik Rinpoche, I don't have the exact quote here, he used the analogy of like trying to go around like a sponge, soaking up the drops of love that other people leave behind. That we really need to know how to generate it for ourselves. And then once we have that, we find that we have a limitless amount of love and compassion we can give to other people, that we can let love permeate every part of our life. And as a result, we can give it to other people. So love very simply means wanting someone to be happy. It's not complicated. You can go into the English definition of love, and you've got various kinds of love, but in Buddhism, it's just wanting other people, beings to be happy. And compassion is wanting beings to be free of suffering. And I should say the causes of suffering, free of the causes of suffering, and to have the causes of happiness. That loving yourself means to take responsibility for your own happiness, rather than expecting the world to be responsible for your happiness. Here is another quote from Gyalwang Karmapa. Kindness to oneself means undertaking the responsibility for one's own liberation. So he's talking about even more than just happiness. He's talking about liberation. And here is another quote that I think is very important. Again, it's from Karmapa. Just look within to the virtuous thoughts you have had, and you will always find a reason to love yourself. Take joy in your sincere intentions. If you have been able to have beautiful aspirations, these aspirations will always be part of you, a beautiful part. The deepest reason to love yourself have nothing to do with anything outside of yourself, not with your body or others' expectations of you. If you ground yourself in your own goodness, nothing will be able to damage your self-esteem. Now, if you're having second thoughts about this, oh, I haven't had enough virtuous thoughts, I should have had better aspirations, and so forth. Well, you can beat yourself up, or how about having some aspirations right now? In fact, maybe we should take just a little moment here and silently to yourself make an aspiration to love yourself more, to be kinder to yourself, to be gentler with yourself. And then make an aspiration to be able to be kinder and gentler and more loving to other people. aspirations point us in the direction that we want to go. We aren't always able to live up to our aspirations, and quite honestly, a lot of the aspirations that are in the prayers we do are impossible for us to accomplish until we are bodhisattvas. So falling a little bit short of your aspirations is not a problem. Just keep making aspirations. That it's very important to do that. And it's good to, I think it was last week I gave a talk on listening and hearing, contemplation and meditating. So you're going to be hearing what I'm saying today. Contemplate these things. After the talk is over with, don't just put it down and go on with your day. From time to time, reflect on what I have said and some of the things that this has brought up in yourself, and chew on it. Think about it. How does it apply to your life and your experience and so forth? And then spend some time meditating. That this is the way we take this from, you might say, from the verbal to bringing it into our heart. It's easy to be able to, you might say, parrot back things that I have said, but it's most important to bring it into your heart and have it become part of you. I don't know where I heard this, but I heard this somewhere, that the biggest distance in the universe is the distance between one's brain and one's heart. So it's important to, you might say, give this heart service rather than just lip service. Now, I thought this would be a good time to talk about our ego, and so who is it that we're having loving kindness and compassion for? You know, who is that? It's interesting, the Karmapa talks about the fabricated self. There's lots of different descriptions in Buddhism about our ego, our self, no self, and so on and so forth. It's Kralig Rinpoche. He even talks about having a functional self, which, of course, has no inherent existence. But a functional self allows you to function in the material, mundane world, while still having no inherent self. In my personal joke, which some of you have heard, and that is, if a person has realized no self, can they use the self-service gas pump? And well, the answer is a functional self, a being with a functional self can pump their own gas. So what is this self? Again, the Karmapa has this definition, which I like a lot because I think it's very relatable. And he talks about a fabricated self, that we're born and we're given a name by somebody else, and we gradually associate ourselves with that name. And that then we start getting other input from the world around us. Could be our parents. And when you're young, you're cute. And so your parents will tell you you're cute. Their friends come over and they tell you you're cute. And you start getting this idea that you're cute. And again, my favorite story is I went to this wedding and there were probably, there was a little girl and a little boy. They're probably 4 or 5 years old. And, the bridesmaid and the ring bearer. And after the wedding, which went quite well, they had a banquet and then an open mic, and friends of the groom and the bride would come up there and tell a story. After a while, this little 4-year-old boy got up there and he's had a very short little speech. He said, "I'm cute. I know I'm cute, and I want to thank all of you for telling me that I'm cute." That's the fabricated self. And we just get all kinds of information about who we are. And as we age, get older, you become a teenager. And well, nowadays, well before your teen years, you're on your cell phone or your digital device, and you're getting fed all kinds of information about who you are, for better or for worse. And then you become a teenager and then an adult and on and on and on. And you keep changing. This idea of who you are keeps changing. In terms of psychology, you've got early childhood psychology, you've got childhood psychology, adolescent psychology, then you've got adult psychology, and then you've got middle age crisis psychology, and then you've got I'm not sure, retirement psychology, geriatric psychology, hospice psychology, and so on. And yet we think that there's something in there that never changes. So the idea of fabricate here means to invent, to create, to make, to build, like to fabricate let's say, a refrigerator in a plant, a manufacturing plant. It's made up of parts and pieces. And so that's one aspect of this fabricated self. It's made up. The other is out of parts and pieces, and then you can take the parts and pieces, and they're made up of smaller parts and pieces. Now, the other part is that there's an element of deception with fabricate, such as in a trial, the police fabricating evidence. So with this fabricated self, we have fabricated evidence. And again, bringing in a little personal experience. When I was, let's see, 24, the police arrested me and filled a trunk up of their car, filled their trunk up with weeds and said that I was harvesting marijuana. And I called that fabricating evidence. When it came to the lab report, it was totally negative and I got off, but I'm familiar with that kind of fabrication too, both in my own ego and when it's done to you by somebody else. But this is how we get this idea of who we are. We get messages from other people, from our experience, from social media, television, movies. We've got just all kinds of information. We pick and choose and decide this is who I am. And sometimes we think that we are just, one of the best out there. And sometimes we think that we're some of the worst out there. That We develop all kinds of ideas about who we are, and it's basically made up, it's fabricated. And understanding this is really important, that we don't have to experience selflessness like you do on the first Bhumi, but just having an idea that maybe things aren't so solid as we think they are, that maybe I can uh, develop new habits and weaken old habits, and realize that there's more room for me to change than I think I have. I'm going to go back to uh, like being a victim. Here is a way how to look at that um, in terms of a fabricated self. Now, it's very common today to talk about someone that, or yourself, that you've had cancer. Maybe it's even terminal. And, but in this case, let's talk about someone that had cancer and at least they went into remission. You could look at yourself as a victim of cancer, which is totally powerless, and you're defining yourself on the basis of that cancer, not some positive quality, but on something negative that happened to you. Or a lot of people say it's much better to be a survivor of cancer. But that still leaves you defining yourself on the basis of cancer. You're still defining yourself on the basis of a very negative experience or collection of experiences. It's much healthier to say that or feel or whatever, that these are some experiences that you have had, but they don't define who you are. You've had a lot of other experiences as well. And on top of all of that is your Buddha nature, which can't be destroyed, can't be altered. You can't be separated from it. It is the potential to become a completely enlightened Buddha. It is the potential to have limitless love and compassion for all beings, including yourself. So when you start thinking about it in this way, you might not be able to change overnight, but you could at least, you might say, interject a little bit of doubt about the way you have been looking at yourself. And whether it be cancer or some experiences you had when you were a child, some experiences you've had as an adult. I know that when it comes to experiences that are very difficult, it could be losing a parent or a grandparent. It could be going through a divorce. It could be going through bankruptcy. It could be losing a job. It could be a serious accident. It could be being an accident and you survived and the person in the car with you died, and so on. That there's just lots of different experiences out there that we have that we can hold on to and kind of use them to define ourselves by. but we can learn to let go of these things, even if it's just little by little by little. At this point, I'm going to open it up to question and answers before I go further. We've got plenty of time. So unmute yourself if you want to say anything.
Okay, thank you. I would like to say that in the beginning, you said like it's my fault that I did that. It's my fault that I'm not a victim, and or I am a victim of the circumstances and all that. No, but I think it's not only one reality that, but two realities. No, it is the reality that I am in a world that is totally imperfect. So it's my responsibility to get through it and try to do my best. No, so assuming that not everything is perfect, without the idea of being a victim, because that doesn't help to get over anything, but seeing the reality a little bit like, okay, it's not only that I have bad luck, but there is a story to everyone, no? And everyone doesn't have perfect story. Maybe I had perfect story, almost perfect story until I was 50, but not 50 before. But well, in my youth, I had almost perfect story, you know? And but the world around is not perfect, and we have to count that not everything is easy, no? And I think accepting this is also not saying everything is my fault, everything is my fault because it's my wrong karma. I am very much in the idea of saying uh, my karma is not only my fault, but the chances I have to overcome myself is like more seeing like an exam more than saying it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault. No, it's like seeing like an exam. No, so I failed in that, or I did better in that, or things like this. That's how I try to go on. No, it's not focusing only on one idea. No, but I don't know. For me, I think it's easier. Maybe I don't assume everything. Maybe it's that I'm not I cannot assume everything. Maybe it's that, no? But but I don't know. I remember once Lama Karma said, I needed that. I absolutely needed that. He said, the faults of samsara. And I thought, oh, thank you. Because yes, there are faults in samsara that are not our responsibility.
I'll have to admit that I didn't understand every word you said because of your accent.
Oh, sorry.
I
Because I'm
thought,
not thinking. No, I'm Spanish.
yeah, you don't have to be sorry. But I think I got most of what you were trying to tell me, and so I'm going to say, does anyone want to say anything? Turn this into a discussion.
Are you talking to me?
Well, I'm talking to everybody. Does anyone want
So I
to
don't repeat.
say?
Do I have to repeat something?
What's that?
Do I have to repeat
No,
something?
no. You don't have to repeat anything.
Okay, okay.
I'm just asking someone else if they want to have anything to say. Uh, it doesn't look like anyone has anything to say, that I have completely boggled their minds.
So I didn't know if you meant, if you wanted me to say something in response or if I have a different
Yeah,
question.
whatever, just a discussion.
So, is there a difference between accepting the fact that samsara is imperfect and being complacent about circumstances in the world that one could change? So, for example, is there a difference between saying, yes, in samsara, people will be hungry,
Mm.
and saying, therefore, because samsara is imperfect and people will be hungry, there's nothing I can do about it?
Yeah, that's an important point. And very simply, we aren't responsible for every bad thing that happens in samsara. And we have to realize that there are limits of what we can accomplish, but to try to accomplish what we can accomplish. That, well, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, might have been Friday. Anyway, I was in Eau Claire, and there was a woman that had a sign saying she was homeless. And so I stopped and I gave her some money. But what I gave her is not going to solve her problem. And even in this country, it's a huge problem, homelessness. And I'm not going to solve the homeless problem, even if I gave all my money away. Even if I just devoted all my time to working for the homeless people. That so you have to realize that there are limits of what we can do, but on the other hand, don't be complacent. This actually goes back to aspirations. So I gave her the money, and then the aspiration of may I be able to eliminate homelessness.
Thank you, Lamayeshi. I see there is a question in the chat you might want to answer.
Okay. Let's see here. Now I've got to put my glasses on. Okay, yes. So here is should we how do we forgive ourselves? How do we do confession? And that is the question you were talking about, Carolyn, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yes. Well, this is there are 4 elements of confession. And this is my own, you might say, memory trick. And I don't know how it works in another culture, but in my culture, when I was in school, they talked about the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. So for those of you from other parts of the world, this might not make sense. So I call it the 4 R's. See, I've got 4 fingers there. The first is regret. You realize that you have regret for something that you have done. The second is reliance, which is reliance on a lama. Could rely on Galwang Karmapa, could rely on the Buddha, you could rely on me if you want. But visualize this being that you are relying on to help you with this process. Just visualize them there in front of you. And then the third R is the remedy. And you could do like the Vajrasattva mantra. You could do there are a number of confession prayers. The 35 Buddhas is an extensive confession prayer. You could just, in your own words, say I did this and I know it's wrong, and on and on and on, and just talk about that. And then the last R is the resolve to never do it again.
Yes.
Now, you probably will do it again because it's a habit. And so then when that happens, do the 4 R's all over again, rather than, oh, shoot, I did it again. I can't help myself. That, quite honestly, the way to tell, as far as I'm concerned, that your Dharma practice is working is you start seeing more of your faults. This might seem kind of, huh? I'm supposed to be better. Well, as you become more aware of your actions, what's going on in your mind and so forth, you're naturally going to start picking up more of things that you're doing that you could be doing better. You're going to become more sensitive. And so, again, the choice is, are you going to go and say, oh, this proves I'm constantly screwing up? Or are you going to go, well, I can improve, and I'm going to do what I can to improve? And here is my final part of my job is to be a motivational speaker. And it's good to give yourself kind of a pat on the back every once in a while when you do something that you feel was worthy of giving yourself a pat on the back. And so it's fine, to take a little break, take a rest, and then say, well, that went well, whatever it is that you did, whether it be your practice, interaction with other people, or whatever. When I'm here at home, and I am at home, that's the thing, I'm kind of both the center and the home. They're in 2 different buildings here, but I have things like preparing a talk and mowing the lawn. And well, either one, when I get to a certain point, I'll take a break and maybe have a little snack. I won't tell you what my favorite snacks are. Some of them you may know, some of you may know this, but anyway, take a break and acknowledge that you've accomplished something, and then go on and get back to work. I hope that helps. And do you have a follow-up on that?
What are the 4 R's again, Lama Yeshe?
Sure. Regret, reliance, remedy,
Remedy.
and resolve.
Okay.
And I want to make a distinction between regret and guilt. That this is really important. That regret is, well, I've done this one thing and I regret having done it. Guilt comes with a resume. I've done this one thing and I regret it. And then I did that. And then I did that. And pretty soon you got a list this long of how many different things you've done that you've screwed up and you're a bad person. So tackle one thing at a time. I don't know, maybe nobody else does that. But anyway, it's real easy to get, guilt is just another conflicting emotion. It's a problem. It's not helpful. Yeah, again, I'm going to repeat myself here. As our practice develops, we are going to become more aware of our actions, what's going on in our mind and so forth. And naturally, we're going to be seeing more, you might say, detailed parts of our behavior and seeing a lot of places where we can improve. And this is not a problem as long as we are able to handle it properly and not get overwhelmed by it and think, oh, that's just too much for me. I'm just so far gone, I'm beyond help. Again, Milarepa. I'll tell this to the inmates. Well, Milarepa killed 35 people. How many of you have killed 35 people? I don't think anyone here, you've killed 35 people, huh?
No, 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 no. I want to say that Milarepa didn't kill anyone. He had the thought. He was thinking, he was displaying a magic that would harm the people there. But actually, he didn't kill anyone because he was in a big distance. He wasn't in this place. I think Milarepa didn't kill anyone, but he had the intention and he learned the magic. But actually, who he killed? If you don't believe in that magic, how can you think he killed? Do you understand what I mean?
Well, I understand what you mean, but that's not the
Okay.
way that I heard the
I am going
story.
to say, how did I process all this, and how did I think it worked? No, because he had paid a lot of money for learning a kind of magic, and then I think, as knowing the things that they work in this world, I don't think it's possible. Absolutely, I don't believe that any magic is going to kill 35 people. I don't believe it at all. Not then, not now. And I think they maybe with the money they did something on the house to make it explode or something like that. And then he was like meditating, thinking very wrong things, and then he felt very guilty. That's what I think. That's what I think. But okay, it's my theory. I'm sorry, but the fact is that Milarepa wasn't at that place, and actually he didn't, with his hands, his body, kill anyone. So he couldn't be in prison. If you're talking about prison, he couldn't be in prison for what he did. So how can we say that he killed people? I'm not a lawyer, okay? But the thing is that he couldn't have been in prison for what he did. I don't know if you understand me.
Oh, I understand. And you said a very important thing, and that was that that's what you believe.
Yeah. But
So,
he had very bad intention, and that, I think, it's enough for him. At least it's enough for him.
yeah, well, I just want to clear this up, and that is that that's what you believe.
Yeah. That's what I believe.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. What I have been taught is that, yes, he did it with black magic, not his hands, but the house did collapse and 35 people died as a result of it.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to believe this. Nobody else has to believe this, but this is what I have been taught. And the point that I'm making is this, that none of you have killed 35 people. None of you have killed even one person. And that if Milarepa can purify his karma from having been involved in the death of 35 people, then that all of us can purify our karma, which isn't as heavy as that. And I see Lama Karma has come on. Do you want to say anything, Lama Karma?
Oh, not at all, Lama. I just listened to you. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, please continue.
Okay. Yes. So anyway, I hope that clarifies things. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying this is what you believe and this is what I've been taught.
And Lama, once again, I kind of missed the 4 R's, right?
Oh,
That
yes.
I'm attached to. First is honor,
Regret,
regret, and then
reliance on a karmapa, a lama.
what is the spelling? Reliance?
Reliance, yes.
R-E-L-I. I'm never
That's
good
right.
with spelling.
Yeah, reliance. My spelling is not as good as it could be. R-E-L-I-A-N-C-E. Yeah.
Reliance.
Yeah, reliance, like you are relying on
Mhm.
your car to start in the morning.
Third is
The third
remedy
is remedy,
and resolution.
and then the resolve is the last one.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Lama.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I use for kind of helping me remember. So, but that's important, that it can all be purified. And the one good thing about bad karma is that it can be purified.
And anyway, he paid a lot of money for these people being killed. So in a way, he was also responsible for that.
Yeah, and he took responsibility and he followed his Marpa, his guru's instructions, and he attained realization. I had a couple come over here. It was Wednesday. They came over with some friends of mine. None of them were Buddhist. But the one couple had never been here before, and they kind of wanted to be with somebody else to come here because, I could be scary. And so they had a bunch of questions and got into nettles, not because they knew anything about Milarepa, but they, liked natural things. They also talked about burdock and burdock root. And so I mentioned that Milarepa was a yogi and he lived in a cave and he had hardly any possessions. And I just happened to have in the house a big tanka with Milarepa on it. And so when they saw that, I said, well, this is the man I was telling you about. And this tanka over his head are leaves of nettles. And they kind of got that. It made an impression on them. So whatever that has to do with anything, I thought I'd put that in there, that Milarepa really practiced austerity. And I also told them the story about the time that bandits came to Milarepa's cave. And so they went in to try to find something to steal. They couldn't find anything to steal because he didn't have anything. And they left, and one of the bandits came back later and gave Milarepa something because he felt so sorry for Milarepa.
Can I make a question to Lama Karma?
Go ahead.
Yes. When in meditation you have a lot of visualizations and you see very beautiful things and in visualization. But then when you are in normal life, you feel like that, well, you saw, you don't feel very, you feel still like in the beginning, no? When you started, when I started, I feel like in the beginning, when I started Dharma, that everybody was more clever than me, that I was the clumsy one and things like that. So I don't know. All the visualization things are, what do they really mean?
Yeah.
I'm not going to take any questions today. Today, I would like Lama to comment on that. And number one, I don't really understand a lot of your questions through email or like, and
Well,
so it's you know, the language barrier. And I do want to comment one thing. Any Buddhist or Tibetan Buddhist that practice or study Buddhism totally, like the Milarepa story is very popular. So something you may read more about Milarepa's biography,
maybe.
because the biography was written by Sonia Hirka, one of very realized master, and as is mentioned in the stories and teachings, that the previous biographies are the example to whom we follow. So I myself, 199% believing in Milarepa's the story. So that's something you may read the biography. That's my comment. And regard with your question, I would hand to Lama Lamala.
Yeah. Now, what I understand you to say is that when you are doing the visualization and you are a bodhisattva or an enlightened being, and it's all very wonderful, and then you're done and you go out into the mundane world and it's totally different. Is that right? And you feel kind of like very low. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not very low, but the others manage better than me. Well, not,
Yeah, not so high anyway.
yeah.
Again, these practices are done and it's little by little, and don't be too concerned about the difference, that gradually there is less difference, but it takes practice, and confidence. Confidence, in your Buddha nature. And in Vajrayana, Buddha nature actually is more, you might say, more complicated, because you've got the three roots: the guru, the yidam, and the protectors.
The girl, the yidam, and the protectors.
Yes, yes. And so you're visualizing yourself as a yidam.
Well, I never did that.
Well, what are you visualizing? What are you talking about meditation?
Yeah, but I always saw myself as myself, and the yidams and the protectors as the yidams and the protectors. So that, like that, I did it like that.
Yeah, so what practice are you doing?
I don't know. I think it's called Mahayana.
Okay, then I think I'm talking about the wrong thing. Are you chanting prayers?
I started chanting Chenrezig, yes.
Okay, Chenrezig is a Vajrayana practice.
Okay.
That-
Is it? I thought it was a Mahayana practice.
Are you visualizing yourself as Chenrezig?
Never.
Oh, okay. So what is it when you are chanting Chenrezig that makes you feel as you were saying, everything is wonderful.
Oh, Chenrezig is wonderful.
Okay, yes,
Everything related with Chenrezig is wonderful.
yeah,
And well, I don't feel separate from Chenrezig. I never felt separate from Chenrezig, but I don't know, I never felt, I don't know, I never, it's something that to me didn't came natural to see myself at Chenrezig. I just wanted the quality of Chenrezig. I don't know.
yeah. Well, all I can say is that when you are out in the mundane world,
Yeah.
say his mantra if you're
Okay.
feeling a little bit down.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you just say his mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. You could do it quietly or you can say it out loud, but this will help remind you of Chenrezig.
Yeah. Because I think Chenrezig is everything, and for me, it's everything, and all I really want to. Well, for me, is everything. Okay, Chenrezig, everything is Chenrezig, and my aim and my everything. So understanding Chenrezig and it, I didn't, I didn't want to do other practices that people think there are more
Lama,
like.
I have a question. I
See?
think maybe we can have other people ask questions. My question is that what is people ask me a lot of questions about forgiveness, and I always have, very, I don't always, I'm not able to answer very accurately. I think forgiveness is the English, terminology.
Yes.
And what would you define and when people ask, like, what is the definition of forgiveness? Of course, if you, maybe I would like to get your, explanation on that.
Yes, that's a very good question. I'm glad you brought that up. And so I am wanting to go to some notes here. Let me see, just wait for a minute. Uh,
I thought you were about to say, I wanted to go for my snack.
yeah. Well, I was looking at the time and was thinking that it is
Yeah.
time to move on and prepare for lunch.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I'm going to The Heart is Noble by Gyawan Karmapa.
Mhm.
And I'm scrolling down to my notes, and I'm going to start from there. And uh, so here we go. That this is again, The Heart is Noble, and
Mhm.
on page it is 37.
Mhm.
The section is titled Forgiving Others.
Mhm.
And before that, he talks about parting with faults, which I've just talked about. But in terms of forgiving others, that he says that confession and forgiveness are very similar, and that they're based on what you are able to do for yourself, that it starts with working with confessing your faults to yourself, forgiving yourself. And it doesn't mean that you're condoning your past behavior or the past behavior of another person, that you have to understand that your behavior is different from who you are, that your behavior, if you're behaving well, doesn't make you a better person. It means that you're behaving better, but it doesn't
Mhm.
affect your Buddha nature. And the same thing for other people. And so when we are working with forgiving other people, realize that they are under control of their conflicting emotions. He makes the difference, the distinction between being beaten by a stick and beaten by a stick that is in the hand of a person. And so it's the conflicting emotions that are holding the stick that
Mm,
you're being beaten with. And to realize that's the problem, the conflicting emotions.
thank you. But the terminology itself, like as a Westerners, like as a Westerner Lama, like your own culture, like without influence of Tibetan lamas or Rinpoches, and what's the kind of definition of forgiveness? Like
Okay,
you talk about the trauma, right, Lama?
yeah.
Maybe there's something to do with those. I mean, forgive oneself or others.
Yeah, so for forgiveness, I like to explain it this way. You have the word forgiveness, and so it means giving. The root word is give.
Mm-hmm.
So you're giving up, like you have taken out a loan from a bank.
Mm-hmm.
And the bank sends you a note and saying, we're going to forgive the loan. You don't have to pay anything back.
Okay.
Isn't that your wish?
Yes.
So forgiveness means, okay, this is a done deal. I don't have to get anything back from the person that you're forgiving. If you're forgiving yourself, I don't have to beat myself up anymore.
Oh, okay.
Another is that you're giving up wanting a better past, wanting people to have been better to you, and so forth. You're giving up a lot of things. And when I speak specifically about forgiveness, I talk about three different types. Forgiving yourself for what you have done. And this would be the same thing as confession.
Well, three things, Lama. What's first, giving yourself?
Yeah, forgiving yourself,
Forgiving.
letting go of that idea that that you need to be, you're a bad person, you've done these things, da 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 da. Well, you're letting go of it. The second is that you think about things that you have done to other people that you regret. The first is things you've done to harm yourself. The second is things you've done to harm other people. And I even have a visualization that goes with this. When you're forgiving yourself, you visualize yourself in front of you. And I like to say 10 minutes in the future, 5 minutes in the future, and then do a Tonglen exchange. You take from that future you, whatever it is that you've done that you to yourself that you want to remove, that you want to purify. And then when you exhale, you give that person whatever it is that would be the remedy for that. Use your imagination. We are very good at imagining all kinds of things and worrying about all kinds of things. Well, use your imagination in a good
That's
way.
second, right, Lama? And third?
Yeah, well, this is the first one, to
Okay,
visualize
first one.
yourself there, and then have this Tonglen exchange. And if you're doing it if you visualize yourself 5 minutes in the future, you do it for 5 minutes. End of 5 minutes, you become the new you, and the old you is in history. So then you visualize someone that you've harmed, that you wish that you could undo the harm that you caused them. And again, visualize them and then have this exchange. You're taking from them the harm you caused to them and giving back a remedy for it. And then the last is to put an enemy in front and forgive the enemy that's harmed you. So you have forgiveness of yourself. You're looking for forgiveness from the person that you have harmed, and then you're forgiving a person that has harmed you.
Thank you. I guess maybe that may run out of the time. It's put what
Well,
time do we?
I've got another 25 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If people want to stay that long. But yeah, that's about forgiveness. And I have found that it can be very effective. It's kind of a combination of, I kind of take off from where Gawain Karmapa starts in this section on forgiveness in The Heart is Noble.
Mhm.
So it's, if you want to know more, read that whole chapter about parting with one's faults and then forgiving others.
Thank you.
I am really impressed with the way Karmapa can explain things to Americans. And I'll tell this. I think I brought this up recently, that in one of those two books, The Heart is Noble and Interconnected, he talks about how that there is a story about Western scientists pulling together and coming up with a supercomputer, and the vastest supercomputer possible, and they entered into it. What is the meaning of life? And it took a long time for this supercomputer to come up with an answer. But the answer was 42. Now, that might seem kind of silly, but I know where he got this story from, and it was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which was a BBC program, kind of a science fiction comedy, that he does more than study the sutras and the tantras. He also pays a little attention to American and English culture. He's really quite knowledgeable if he knows that bit of information. So let me see, where was I? And I have to say this, I feel so incredibly fortunate that I have come in contact with Tibetan Buddhism, Khenpo Karta Rinpoche, Gawain Karmapa, and so forth. What I have next is to go into a little bit more about Buddha nature, which seems like a good segue here. That what Buddha nature is, that we all have the enlightened essence, that we all are potential Buddhas. This is not something that is beyond our capabilities, that our mind has a luminous aspect to it. And luminous means, to compare, the moon reflects the sun. The sun is luminous. So our mind has this luminous aspect to it. It doesn't reflect, it is this Buddha nature. And along with that is this innate wakefulness, that it might be difficult to connect with that innate wakefulness, but it is there. It's unchanging. You can't be separated from it. It is impossible. It can't be altered. It can't be divided. It can't be diminished. And it means that we have the potential for limitless love, for limitless compassion, limitless wisdom, that it is beyond words, it's beyond comprehension. I have been kind of, I'm going to see if I can find this picture. This is a picture that just came to mind, if I can find it, that gives an idea of this. It's from the Hubble telescope. There we go. Hey, now, do you see that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, now this, you see there's some orange dots there. And those are new stars. Maybe I've got my cursor there. You see that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you see what this is, these are new stars being born. That the darker areas, there are existing stars in the background there, and limitless numbers of them. But in this is a particular cloud, and it's dust and gas. And what is happening is that it is condensing into stars. And when that gets to a certain density, it goes thermonuclear and it becomes radiant. Before that, it's not radiant, but the essence of a star is in the dust. And I kind of like that analogy for our Buddha nature. That I don't know how this goes with the classics example, but that we have this potential, and it's a matter of going within and clarifying the confusion, and it dawns as wisdom, like in the four dharmas of Gampopa. Grant your blessings that confusion may be clarified, and so forth. Does that make a little sense here in terms of our Buddha nature?
Yes.
So, you know, this is our essence. This is who we are. And it takes confidence in ourselves, takes confidence in the Dharma, takes confidence in the teachers, confidence in Karmapa. Without that, you're not going to have the determination to stay on the path and practice and work towards purifying and bringing this to the surface. But this is our Buddha nature. So it's the same for a Buddha and it's as a sentient being. The difference is that a Buddha has realized their Buddha nature and brought it to fruition. And that traditionally the example is the sun and the clouds, that you have the sun and that the clouds block the sun, and that's the clouds are confusion, are conflicting emotions and so forth. But a more advanced way to look at it is that our Buddha nature is the confusion as well as beyond the confusion. It's not separate from. And this, I think probably I should stop and let some questions here because this gets pretty complicated. So does anyone have any questions about what I just talked about?
I need some clarification, Lama Yeshe. Did you say that Buddha nature was confusion, our confusion?
What I'm saying is that our Buddha nature, our ultimate Buddha nature does not exclude the confusion. It's just that we do not, from our perspective, we do not see it. We do not realize that confusion can dawn as wisdom.
Right.
That the Mahayana approach is that you have the sun and then you have the clouds, and when the clouds of confusion are cleared away, you have your Buddha nature. But ultimately, there's no, you might say, one source for wisdom and another source for confusion.
Okay.
I'm glad you asked that.
I same side of the different sides of the same coin, like
Yeah,
hope and all the other worldly dharmas. There's a good one and a bad one, if you want to call it.
Yeah, that's dualistic, thinking that you've got good and you got a source for bad.
True.
So I kind of pulled a fast one on you, and I'm glad you caught me.
I didn't see it as a fast one, believe me. Thank you for clarifying.
Sure. Any other comments or questions?
I want to say to Lama, because I sent an email and I was a little bit stressed. Maybe I'm sorry, but I'm a little bit stressed.
I'm afraid I didn't understand that question completely.
Lama Karma said that I sent him an email, but actually I'm a little bit stressed. So with a lot of questions, he said. So I am a little bit stressed, and I apologize for so many things I said. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what I heard was you're a little bit stressed and you apologize for things.
Yeah, but because I put a lot of things in.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, and let's see, we've got about got a little more than 10 minutes. Anybody have anything else that they want to add? I can go on. I can always go on. So okay, I'll just keep going on with my notes here. Let's see here. Let's see here. This is, I think, another Karmapa quote. We let ourselves be delighted by gaining new material possessions. Why shouldn't we let ourselves be more delighted with our own inner goodness? It is worth so much more. Our personal qualities can make us happy. We just need to turn our attention to them. And this might seem, well, we need to know the difference between taking care of ourselves and being self-indulgent. This is a very, very important point, that it can be good to take time to go for a walk in a park. To let your mind relax, be with nature. Nature, just being with nature can be healing. And I know a lot of you are living in cities where it might be unusual for you to find yourself in a park or be in a natural setting. But just being for a few minutes out in nature can reconnect us to the natural world. And it's important to have this connection to the natural world. Again, Karmapa talks about how just breathing connects us with the plants, that they are the ones that produce oxygen in the atmosphere, and our carbon dioxide that we exhale is used by plants. And that whenever we are breathing, we are just, you might say, reconnecting with plants, that if we didn't have plants, we wouldn't have oxygen. And everything in the world that we use, all the resources except for sunlight, come from the earth and the ecosystem. And to realize that we have this natural connection with nature, this too can be healing, that it can help us. It's a way of loving yourself in a way, just going out and being in a natural environment, even if it's for a short period of time. I remember having a man from New York City out here in the summertime one time, and I have black raspberries in great abundance, and he would not eat them because they did not come from a grocery store. All our food comes from nature, and we have this connection with nature, and to realize that and to appreciate it. Here's another important word about loving yourself is appreciation. That if we can appreciate what we have, that it can, again, it's a way of taking care of yourself. I sometimes think of my grandmother, who was born, I think, in 1896 on a farm. And at that time, no automobiles, no electricity. They probably had a crank phone. And if she had a house like I think she did, I probably didn't have insulation. When the wind blew in the wintertime, the house was cold. You didn't have central heat, on and on and on. And she talked very kindly about her childhood. And now, and you know what? She never got stuck in traffic as a little girl. And now we get stuck in traffic, and like, this is a problem. And there's so many things that are problematic in our life. Meanwhile, there's so many things that are going well in our life that we don't focus on. I realized one time when I was stuck in traffic, I don't have traffic where I live. Getting stuck in traffic here is getting behind a farm implement that covers both lanes of the 2-lane highway. But getting into Minneapolis where they have traffic, if you start thinking about it, if you're thinking that you're stuck in traffic, what happens is actually that you are one car among a large number of other cars, and they're all on the road because they want to get somewhere at the same time that you want to get somewhere. And you're as much of that traffic jam as anybody else is. You are not separate from the traffic jam. And if you think about that, then maybe you can relax a little bit and quit thinking about yourself so much and realize that the guy next to you is probably thinking that you are the cause of his problem because you are a traffic jam. But if we can appreciate what we do have, whether it be a walk in the woods, in the park, if it can be that, well, you're alive, that you have a place to live, that you've come in contact with the Dharma, you have devotion, and there's so many things that we have if you start really thinking about what we have and appreciating them. You could spend the rest of the day, maybe the rest of your life, just thinking about things to feel gratitude towards. Maybe I'll finish this up. I have a son, he was just over here yesterday. Now, he was born in 1967. So, you know, he's quite a bit older than this story. But this is a very common story when you have children. It was Christmas, had a Christmas tree up, had presents under the Christmas tree. My son had lots of presents. So it was time to open the presents, and, you know, he'd open one, look at it, set it aside, open another one, look at it, set it aside. And then when all the presents were open, he would look at me and say, is that all? Yeah. And in a way, we are like that. You know, we've got so much going for us. Go over to India, go over to Nepal, if you want to have a comparison of what we've got here compared to maybe somebody else. And we don't appreciate what we have, and we think we need more. So I think this would be a good time to do a dedication prayer. And then we're going to take a break for lunch. And I'm just going to do the simple one. Sonam di tamche sikpane topne ne pedro nam jene pekana che balap paye sepe sole drowa show.
Thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you. And I'll be back at 2 o'clock. So have a
See
good
you,
one.
Lama. Thank you.
Yeah, bye now.
Bye.
Lama Yeshe,
Yes,
before you go, could I get an interview sometime today?
yes.
Maybe after?
Maybe, shall we try 1:30?
Sure, that'll work. It's not going to be half an hour's worth of talk, so.
Okay, well, fine. See you at 1:30 on this
Right.
channel.
Thanks very much.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.